Hey guys, I'm the Depressed Engineer, and I want to talk about bachelor's degree versus master's degree. So I currently have a bachelor's degree, and I know that when I was in school, I definitely considered getting a master's degree in electrical engineering. Now I think majority of what I'm going to be talking about in this video is from a electrical engineering degree perspective. And yes, I know my hair. I took a shower and then I was too lazy to do anything with it, so it's flat. I don't care. Anyways, so everything I'm going to be talking about is from the engineering perspective. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different for every different department, or whatever degree you're getting in. But for an engineer, I'm going to come out and just say that you don't necessarily need a master's degree to really succeed in engineering. So as I said, I just have a bachelor's degree. I was originally thinking about getting a master's degree because I wanted to do maybe a little bit of research in nanotechnology and then maybe somehow apply that to biomedical because of nanobots in your bloodstream and all that. Something along those lines. And obviously I've moved on from that thought. So I don't really ever plan on getting a master's degree now. And I think the biggest reason that I don't really want to get a master's degree now is I don't really see myself getting into research. So obviously, if you want to work for a place like, a good example is Sandia National Laboratories, they're always looking for master's degree students. Now obviously, if you're an engineer thinking about this, you probably already know a lot of this stuff, but getting a master's degree means you've been doing a lot of research. You usually have to do a thesis and all that. So a master's degree, if you want to work for a place and do a lot of research and development, a master's degree is kind of the bare minimum of what you need. Sometimes they'll even require you to get a PhD. Obviously a PhD will, if you want to be a professor at a college to teach about electrical engineering, then that's a good place to go. But a PhD, in my opinion, just is like overkill. A master's degree is just fine if you want to do research and development. Another reason for getting a master's degree is to increase your pay. So I think the national average for a bachelor's degree is about $63,000. I'll add text in the video in case I'm wrong about this stuff because I didn't actually research this just now. And then the average for a master's degree student is probably somewhere along the lines of like 80 to 100K on a national average. I'll have to check up on that. But the point I'm trying to make is you can make more money getting a master's degree. So another reason I personally wouldn't get a master's degree for myself, and this is definitely for someone who works in the defense contracting department, I have worked with people who have their master's degree and they made the same amount of money that I did. I know, it's crazy. When I worked at BAE Systems, another defense contracting company, not as well known as something like Northrop Grumman or Boeing or Raytheon or anything like that, but they're a British-owned company that obviously were allies with the UK, so they have their own department here in the United States. So getting a master's degree for defense contracting really isn't necessary, in my opinion. This is all my opinion, by the way. You have to go out and make this decision for yourself, but this is just my perspective. When I worked at BAE Systems, there was a mechanical engineer who he had his master's degree in mechanical engineering, and he actually made, I believe, $2,000 less than what I was making. And that just blew my mind because this was 2015. Yeah, I think it was 2015 when I took this job. So I was so confused. I was like, how do you have a master's degree? And not only that, but this was in Utah, and I think on average, most of the engineers there were making, I want to say it was about $52,000 on average. And in fact, I think the master's degree student was making like $51,000 or something ridiculous. I was like, bro, you either need to renegotiate your salary or get the heck out of here and get a pay increase somewhere else. The biggest problem at that place too was they underbid for the contract, so obviously they couldn't pay a lot of people their salaries that they deserved. But a lot of people stayed there. I only worked there for 6 months because I was like, there's no way. I was sitting in a cube all day, didn't really feel like I was accomplishing anything. And of course, it wasn't until like 6 months in they actually started giving me some engineering work. But even then, I didn't feel comfortable there. A lot of the people there were LDS, and I just didn't. The cultural shock there was too much for me. The cultural shock. But yeah, it was too much. Even 6 months in, I was like, I gotta get out of here. This is bad. That was the first time I had ever worked for a place for like 3 months, and I was immediately like red flags everywhere. So I gave up on that idea and ended up getting at least a somewhat better job somewhere else. But yeah. So this is just one example. I've seen plenty of times where I've worked with people who have a master's degree and they do the same exact stuff that I do. They're usually more intelligent than I am, but again, they just do the same stuff, probably usually making the same salary that I'm making, unless they're smart enough to actually negotiate their salary, and then you can usually bump it up higher than what I'm making. But again, you should always be negotiating your salary, especially for engineering jobs. Also, another thing I didn't realize, you can also negotiate PTO at certain places. So like, at most places you accumulate PTO. You don't just get 2 weeks of PTO immediately. You can actually go, once they offer you a position, you can say, hey, I want a pay bump, but I also want 2 weeks of PTO right away. And apparently they'll just, because I just learned that from one of my coworkers, like, how the hell do you, because he was taking days off all the time, and I'm like, why are you taking days off, man? How do you have all this PTO? You worked here less than I have. And he said, oh yeah, I negotiated for PTO. I was like, whoa, you can do that? So not only negotiating salary, but also negotiating time off as well is really helpful. And obviously that's different from company to company. Some places are just going to give you the middle finger, but I think most defense contracting companies have so much money in their budget anyways, they don't give a crap. Another reason not to get your master's degree too, and I'm not trying to make this video about, discouraging people from getting their master's degree. Like I said, if you want to do research and development, go get a master's degree, because that's the best way you're going to get in there. And you're going to, if you do a lot of research on this, you're going to see YouTube videos and articles that are like, oh, well, the master's degrees are the new bachelor's degrees of 2020, or there's even the videos of like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or whoever. They're just like, yeah, college degrees are pointless. Some of these rich famous people say don't even get a master's degree, or don't even get a degree at all. Don't even go to college. I mean, that is an option, but again, in the economy that we currently live in now, it's probably a good idea to go to college just to at least have a bachelor's degree to fall onto. But again, that's another decision you have to make up on your own. If you're already in the process of like starting your own business and everything, then you probably don't need the bachelor's degree. But again, for me at least, it's nice to have a backup plan. The bachelor's degree for me is that backup plan. I could just throw it on my resume and say, hey, I have my bachelor's degree. And they're like, oh, okay, you went to ABET accredited school or whatever. So, but another reason not to get a master's degree is obviously that it's more expensive. You spend another 2 years or so, depending on what you're doing and what department you're in. But yeah, you're spending another 2 years worth of tuition. I almost said intuition, but school tuition. And, depending on your housing and whatever, then you're spending another 2 years at college, which, in the United States right now, there's a huge student loan crisis going on. And if you want to spend the money, or if you're getting a free ride, then screw it. I guess you can just do that. But I think for most average people, they probably don't want to spend another 2 years at college. But again, if that's what you really want to go for, then go for it. I'm not going to stop you. Don't let anyone else stop you from doing what you want to do. I'm just saying, in my experience, that people I've worked with master's degree, they do the same crap that I've done, and the same pay. So, and another thing is that another reason I didn't do a master's degree is because as soon as I got my bachelor's degree and I was already I got like a 3.4 GPA, so it's not too bad. But I just really didn't want to do the school thing anymore. I kind of want to just start getting my own salary, my own paychecks and everything. So a benefit to that is getting a bachelor's degree and then getting a job and actually getting experience out in the workforce. Because at a certain point in your career, no one gives a crap what school you went to. No one even gives a crap sometimes of what degree you got, as long as you went to college at some point. But yeah, sometimes getting the bachelor's degree and then getting work experience is way more valuable than getting the bachelor's degree and then immediately going to a master's degree. But the benefit of going straight to the master's degree is that you already have a lot of the things you've just learned from getting a master's degree, and you can apply that to your master's degree. The downside to getting a bachelor's degree and then getting a job and getting, real field work experience is you're spending more time not talking about or learning about the things that you talked about while you're getting a bachelor's degree. That wording was a little bad, but what I'm trying to say is if you want to get your master's degree later, you basically have to like restudy everything you had learned before just to get ready for a master's degree. And again, it's different for each person. Sometimes you'll be able to get through that just fine. This was another reason why I didn't even bother getting a or taking the FE exam to become a professional engineer. Becoming a professional engineer really more applies towards like structural jobs, like especially if you want to do consulting engineering for designing buildings, and especially for an electrical engineer, and definitely for civil engineering as well as designing these architectural buildings and layouts. Because obviously you have to meet certain regulations and everything, and that also ties to a lot of government jobs that are built in, like sewer systems, buildings, energy systems as well, that they really want to see somebody who has a professional engineering exam completed. And I think you have to work under a PE, like that's why it's an EIT, I think it's engineer in training. And you have to take the fundamental engineering exam, which I was scared shitless, so I didn't even want to take the FE exam, because I was like, dude, I barely just got through double E. And I think at the time the FE exam was like spread out between all disciplines, so you basically had to know everything about mechanical, electrical, and civil engineering, which I was like, I'm not gonna do that. Dude, I've been studying for 4 years just to get a double E degree. I don't want to do it all over again. So again, these are choices you got to make. If you want to be a PE, then that's the way you're going to have to go, especially if you want a job in a lot of consulting engineering jobs want a PE. And again, you have to do your research. You can go on Indeed.com or Monster.com or whatever and look for the kind of jobs that you want to get outside of school, because those are going to have the requirements in their application saying, oh, we're looking for somebody who's a PE, or somebody who wants to become a PE because we have an EIT program or something like that. Or, hey, we're looking for a bachelor's degree student. We're looking for a master's degree guy. So again, do your research and then make your decision off of what you actually want to do. And I think I even read articles recently where, honestly, professional engineers are becoming less and less relevant in our economy right now. In fact, I think there are a few PEs at my current job right now at Northrop Grumman where it's totally not needed to be a professional engineer, and the only reason he has a PE, I don't know why I'm saying a PE, but because he became a PE is because he was working in structural stuff, like working for a company that installed the lighting in buildings and like street lamps and all that stuff, which is honestly not really engineering. It's just like, here's a pole that has electricity in it and a light bulb. Like, it's more complicated than that, and I'm oversimplifying it, but it also at the same time, it's not the most fulfilling engineering task in the world. Like, if you actually want to build, I don't know, if you want to design things and make phones or invent something, inventions are a whole other thing too, by the way. If you want to become like an electrical engineering inventor, college almost doesn't even matter. You can just become a self-taught engineer and teach yourself how to code, how to put circuits together. There's even textbooks out there that teach you how to it's like the fundamentals of being an inventor. But yeah, there's no need to even, I would at least get a bachelor's degree in my opinion if you want to be an inventor, but sometimes you probably don't even need that. You're honestly better off just working in your own basement and just tinkering with things, and possibly even working at like a computer fixing job. Like there's tons of little companies out there that'll fix phones and just various pieces of technology, and sometimes you'll learn more just by doing that because you're taking stuff apart and troubleshooting it. And then if you want to learn more, you can Google search or read books about what you're fixing and be like, oh, this is how the designers made this. That's going to make my life easier for troubleshooting. But that could be a whole other topic. But yeah, in my personal opinion, I would not even recommend getting a master's degree, especially if you just want to get your foot in the door. I feel like it's good to just get your bachelor's degree and then get some work experience in. Because, I mean, imagine getting a master's degree and then working at Northrop Grumman like I am, and then maybe making 10% more salary than I'm making, and doing the same exact stuff. Because people with a master's degree in my department, all they do is read off these work instructions, fill out forms, plug in a cable from point alpha to point bravo, or point A to point B, because we have to use military phonetics. But yeah, and then like write down what results we get and then just stamp stuff off. Like it's nothing major. You're not really designing anything. There's a few people there who have master's degrees and they're designing some of the equipment that we're using, but it's pretty rare, to be honest with you. And a lot of the design work is like, here's a chassis, here's some circuits that we're getting from some commercial manufacturers, so we don't really have to design any circuitry ever. I think some of the most hardcore stuff we've ever really done is solder a resistor together for a test that we were doing for a current test. And it's like, bro, this isn't even engineering. I'm literally like soldering a resistor to like a 500 watt resistor to some metal and then plugging it into stuff. Like, it's really not, this goes back to some of my other videos where it's like, you need to be challenged in a healthy way. There's no challenges. Like, if you want a job where you can just coast, then that's the place for you. Most people who get a master's degree do it because they want to be challenged and they actually enjoy engineering. Working where I work right now is a great way for your career to die. In fact, a lot of the people that work there are people who are probably going to retire soon, just because it's a great retirement job. And it's technically a government job in a sense, but it's a contracting for the government job, so it's not really. But it's a great job if you want to just coast to retirement. But if you're young and you have aspirations and you still have a passion for engineering, please don't do defense contracting, because defense contracting is the greatest way to kill your passion for life in general. Like, I've gotten to work plenty of times where I'm like, I don't even want to be alive anymore, let alone doing engineering. But yeah, it's a great way to kill your career in engineering. I don't even learn anything about engineering more. If you were to ask me about Ohm's law, I would be like, V equals IR, I guess. That's about all I know about electrical engineering anymore. It's been since 2014 that I got my bachelor's degree. I don't remember anything anymore. I don't remember digital communications. I don't remember solid state devices. I don't remember electromagnetics and electro-optics were like some of the most interesting things to me. And like the math behind it was really challenging, and trying to understand the chemistry behind silicon diodes and all these various materials that you have to send electricity through. But if you were to quiz me on it today, I barely know how to use this freaking iPhone, let alone how to fucking do anything in electro-optics. So, defense contracting is the best way to melt your brain and become very dumb. Because I've been talking to coworkers today where they're looking for other jobs at other companies, and these other companies are like, oh, hey, we need you to have 5 years of FPGA experience, or we need 4 or 5 years of experience designing satellites, or doing all like actual engineering experience. And he's just like, dude, I'm dumb as hell. Like, how the hell am I supposed to be able to apply to any of this stuff? I don't know anything. It's because we're not growing as engineers. Like, hey, you want to know how to open a spreadsheet and format some of the cells? I can do that. I've been doing a lot of Excel spreadsheets, and not even macros. I used to do macros here every once in a while in Excel. I don't even do that anymore. Which, doing macros in Excel has become so easy now, because you just press the record button and it'll just do it for you, basically. And you can edit. I've learned how to edit the code a little bit here and there, but yeah, I've just become so dumb since 2014 that it's just like, I don't remember how to do electrical engineering anymore. And this is why I don't recommend defense contracting, because your brain will ooze out of your ears. So I hope that helped. I tried to go into as much detail as I could off the cuff, because this is not scripted, and I'd have to do a lot more research on bachelor's and master's degrees, but this is just my personal experience. This is all anecdotal stuff that I've seen out in the field, where, especially in defense contracting, where honestly getting a master's degree makes almost no difference. And if you actually want to make a big difference in your career, especially in defense contracting, you should really join like Toastmasters, or do a lot more public speaking at least, because I don't want to say it, but it really does come down to that pretty popular colloquialism, which is basically, it's not what you know, it's who you blow. And I've seen that so many times in defense contracting. I'm sure, you know, viewers out there who work in corporations, that's all that really is I've seen all these super smart people who just like know every single thing about what we're working on, and they have the answer to every question in engineering. And I go up to them, I'm asking them questions, they're like, oh yeah, it does this, and this is how this works. I'm like, oh god, I didn't even know that, okay. And then I get my work done. But they've been like in the same position for 10 years. And then I've seen other people who were pretty much hired a year ago, and they're already like senior principal engineers and managers and stuff, all because they just knew who to talk to, they knew the right connections, they know how to speak well, they know how to just talk, you know, shoot the shit with people, basically. And honestly, that'll take you way further than just having textbook knowledge on technology. Obviously, you're always going to have that interpersonal communication with other people to some degree, but if you work on just talking to people and just learning how to communicate properly, which I still need to work on, obviously, because I'm terrible at talking to other human beings, especially as an introverted person. I hate small talk and I hate talking to other people, but it's a necessary skill to have. And I feel like it's a skill that's very neglected in engineering. And honestly, in college, I kind of really wish I had socialized more and had like some sort of public speaking thing going on there. I'm sure there was probably some, I didn't even know about Toastmasters in college. And the problem I'm having right now is there's a Toastmasters at work, but it's really not good, and they meet bi-monthly, and I kind of wish they met more. But also, it's people from work, and I really don't want to communicate. Like, at the end of my workday, the last thing I want to do is talk to more coworkers. And I was just like, dude, I don't want to deal with this shit. I'm sure there's probably something else I could do around here. Arizona's huge, obviously, so. But yeah, my biggest recommendation would just be, especially if you want to climb the ladder, if you want to climb the corporate ladder, you need public speaking skills. Like I do. I really need public speaking skills badly, but it's very important to communicate with others and to just figure out, again, it's not what you know, but who you blow. And I hate saying that because it's just more proof that meritocracy is dead in the United States. If you still think that meritocracy exists in the United States, you are completely naive and have no idea what you're talking about. I've seen people work their butts off only to get to the same place they've been in for 10, even more years than that, and then eventually get laid off or, you know, lose their job or whatever. And I've seen totally inadequate people with no skill sets whatsoever and like pretty much no redeeming qualities reach higher positions in management and make like 6 figures and basically fake it till they make it and pretend like they know what they're doing. Because even in the department I'm in right now, there's talks about like, well, we want to be the best, you know, rocket company in the world, and we want to do this, but we also want to cut costs, and we also want to do these things. It's like, well, dude, I don't know how to tell this to you, but if you want to be the best in the world, you probably aren't going to have to cut costs. Now, I think the biggest thing they're worried about more is like, how can we cut redundant costs? Like, how can we make sure we're not wasting money in places where we shouldn't be wasting money? But the way they phrased it was like, we want to cut costs and be the best rocket company in the world. It's like, you think no one's had that idea? You think that's a novel idea? How? You know, here's a good idea, guys. What? And this is in a meeting, by the way. That's probably like a 1 or 2 hour meeting. And it's all these management people sitting there going, what if we spent almost no money and then retained our title as the best rocket company in the world? And everyone's like, that's a brilliant idea. Without actually talking about how to do that. And like, I'm sure they talked about how to do it, but it's just like, this isn't a new concept. Every company in their own field wants to be the best in their field while, you know, either maintaining or reducing costs. Like, no one's ever sat down and be like, what if we're the worst company and we increase costs? They're like, oh, that's a great idea. Like, come on. This is like fucking... A 10-year-old could tell you that, yes, the company goal is to be the best and reduce costs so that we could save money. Like, that's not a novel concept, people. So, all right, in any case, I've already talked way too much in this video, so I'll let you guys go. I appreciate you guys, as always, and hope to see you in the next video. Bye.